Hey y'all, let's talk about section 1.2 today, 1.2 Renaissance Humanism. So probably a lot of you have heard of the Renaissance. Maybe you have frequented movies about four reptile turtle animals, and that may be your extent of Renaissance knowledge, and that is okay, but that is unacceptable going through AP European history. So today we're going to look at first of all, what is the Renaissance? Why did it start in Italy? And then humanism, the spirit of the Renaissance. What does that mean? I apologize, during 1.1, I had the course standards for the course hidden by my face here on this side, right here, that side of the screen. So I'm going to move those around to make sure that my fat head isn't blocking those anymore. Right. So the menu. What kinds of people were affected most by the Renaissance? So what this movement, who does it affect? Why did the Renaissance begin in Italy? And then the big thing is, how did humanism challenge and or promote past traditions? So here's my girl Mona, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the Renaissance, and wouldn't you know it, her voice sounds like mine. First of all, the Renaissance. It is a French word meaning rebirth, and it's also noted as the beginning of modern European history. Now, the thing with some historical areas that we're going to study is we don't actually know when they start. We can't say, it started on that Tuesday, or at 327 yesterday. We don't know that about the Renaissance. It's more of a general progression of change. A lot of historians put it back to 1300. I would put it more to like 1350, especially after the Black Death, because you rebirth. I mean, the idea of like being born again after everyone's dead. So that's maybe something to think about. Really not a huge deal. No, the 14 and 1500s is when you see it the most. Our definition for it is a revival of classical learning and adding of new secular and scientific values to traditional religious beliefs. Couple of vocabulary words. Classical. That word's always going to refer to Greek and Roman civilization. So whenever you see the word classical, you know that's going to refer to the guys in ancient Greece, the guys in ancient Rome, and the ladies there too. So note that. And also the word secular. Secular means worldly. It means something that is not religious. It is of this world. So if you're like, I like secular music, then you're going to like the Lady Gaga and the Justin Bieber and all of these, pop music that aren't, say, Christian worship music or things like that. So in any case, that's what we have, is that we are building back Greek and Roman learning and tradition and adding new worldly and scientific values to traditional religious beliefs. So we're not replacing them, we are adding them there. Now it's going to influence the upper classes more than the lower, because this Renaissance is not impacting the way people live their lives per se. It is more of a cultural, an intellectual movement, an artistic movement, as you probably know. This is not going to matter to the lower classes, because if you look at those peasants out there, all they care about is getting fed and getting bread and getting things that help them live. So they're not going to really care about, oh, look at this beautiful statue. That's not really what they're going to be all about. They're going to be about the things that they need to live, while it's the wealthy that have the security in their life to say, well, what did the ancient Greeks think about the weather or whatever? So that's generally how that works. So as I said, the peasants are literate. They also can't read. For the most part, the peasants can't read. Printing press is certainly new. We talked about that in 1.1. But it's not really in a spot in the rural areas where many peasants have access to printed materials. So how are they going to learn about the past if they can't read at this point? And again, with money comes what? Security. Mosquito, I have to fight off. With money comes security. So you have the ability to say, hey, I have food in my belly. I don't need to work, so I have time to be able to go and learn about the past. So speaking of the past, where does the Renaissance begin? We are settling here in Italy. And Italy in, say, the year 1450 looks like this politically. It is not united in one country. So imagine the United States with no Washington, D.C., with no Congress, with no president. Each state did their own thing. We're all American, but we have individual separate governments running every state that don't answer to a higher level. That is what Italy here is at this point. So you have republics of Florence and Venice, Naples. You have the papal states, which is this area is called papal, referring to the Pope. And you have certainly a lot of other smaller city states as well. So Italy is not united. However, it is going to be the home of the Renaissance. Now, the question is why? Why does it start? Well, first of all, you have medieval trade routes coming to Europe from eastern lands. And we looked at that 1.1 and how that brought in the Black Death. But if you look at this map, you've got the Silk Road and you've got these other routes that come in to Europe, and their entrance point is these Italian cities, particularly Venice, Florence, Rome. And in those cities, think about it as like an interstate exit. When you have a trade route like an interstate where people take things along the way, it's at those interstate exits where you're going to have things start to build up. So, exit 90, exit 87 here in Richmond. The Richmond Center's over there at 87. 90's got all those restaurants, got the Frisch's Big Boy, and all these fun things because it is on the path of trade. So that's where you're going to have money flow into. And remember, what do we have to have a Renaissance? We got to have the upper class with money. We'll talk about how that plays a role here in a minute. But just know the trade routes into Italy, that's what's making a difference. It's creating that wealthy merchant or business class. You have Greek and Roman ruins in your backyard. So if I live in, say, California, and I'm interested in caves, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to Kentucky because we have the biggest cave of them all. It's Mammoth. I've heard some things. So you've got those Greek and Roman ruins in your backyard. So you have easy access to be inspired by the past. And that's not only the architectural ruins, but also the documents. Remember the Byzantine Empire, bringing those documents across from Constantinople when the Ottoman Empire conquered it. You got all this influence here, or affluence of materials that you can check out to be properly inspired. We just mentioned the fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453 sends that Greek influence around. And if you're a Western or an Italian and you see the Ottoman Empire starting to advance in the East, you kind of want to get your stuff together, because what's to say that the Ottoman Empire may not come for you next? If you look at it geographically, they're right across the way. So it's something to consider, is that Ottoman Empire conquering Constantinople can help trigger some more growth in trying to rebuild a civilization, as what happened with the Renaissance. Now, what's the Renaissance about? I've given you some definition, but really at the end of the day, it's about this concept. And in this presentation, you've got to understand what humanism is. Really, the easy definition, if I had to say a 7th grade definition for what humanism is, it is the strong belief in human achievement and potential. And it's really easy. It's humanism. It's all about being human. So, I don't know. There's nothing here. I'm trying to look for a prop. Okay, here we go. So this summer, I painted one of our bathrooms yellow. I mean, look at that color. Isn't that lovely? That's nice. I think of the name of it was something sunset. I forget what it was. But anyway, I painted something great. I had the ability to paint a room. Now, this is a really lame example, but think, as we're going to get into Renaissance art, that humans have the ability to create works of art that are revolutionary, including the one that you see on your screen, the David by Michelangelo. It is just generally the idea that I individually have incredible talent that God has given to me. I also have a belief that I can use that talent in a worldly or secular atmosphere. So I don't have to sit on my talent. I can go and use that to experience the world and to add to that. There is a word virtue, which is the idea of excelling in all of one's pursuits. So you can chase excellence. You probably have an extracurricular activity, a sport, a hobby, or whatever that you want to be good at. And it's celebrated in our world that you're good at that. That is humanism, the ability to celebrate the potential that we have. Now, the point here is that where do you find that inspiration for inspiring? In many cases, Renaissance thinkers and humanists are going to look at the classical era, Greek and Roman eras. They're going to really focus on that ideology, those traditions, those ideas, bring those back, and that will challenge the intellectual monopoly held by the church. We've already talked about how the church controls all intellectual thought. We're going to see that in the scientific revolution. We're going to see that in the Reformation coming up in Unit 2. The point here is that the Renaissance starts to get people thinking outside of what the church would say of here is how the world is structured. So we have a competing ideology starting to come. Humanism is one of those things of, hey, let's focus on the achievements of human beings, not so much that humans are depraved and sick individuals that need God for protection. We'll kind of go through that idea more in class. Another thing with humanism is that they believed in a liberal arts education program. Liberal not meaning the political idea, but liberal meaning like history, philosophy, things like this, to create future civic leaders. And this is known as civic humanism, where they wanted to emphasize restoring Greco-Roman political traditions. One of those traditions was, if you remember from 7th grade, talking about the Roman Senate. The Greeks, the inventors of democracy. What we're going to see in this Western European situation here at the beginning of our classes, there's very little of those type things. And really will continue to be very little of those until later on. So again, civic humanism, these ideas of human achievement, not only in culture and art, but also in the political sphere of how human beings can rule themselves instead of having a leader do it for you. So here's some nice fun quotes from some humanists of note. Petrarch, the path of your life is in your hands, not God's, not your parents', but yours. Okay, human achievement potential. Men can do all things if they will. Well, thanks, Leon Battista Alberti, for an inspirational idea. And then my boy Pietro Artino, I am indeed a king because I know how to rule myself. Nice beard as well. Now, kind of the other concept with that, we're just going to close with this idea, is from the idea of humanism comes the concept of the Renaissance man. In the Middle Ages, the man was expected to master maybe one craft, and that craft brought them certainly a craftsman like a tailor or a blacksmith. That's what you did. You really didn't use life to better yourself. Well, the Renaissance will start to teach the upper middle class, the wealthy merchants, start to broaden your horizons, be more talented at things than just the one thing. So the Renaissance man is supposed to be a possessor of many skills. The Greek ideal of a well-rounded man was the heart of the Renaissance education. History, philosophy, rhetoric, which is public speaking, scientific thinking, mathematics, all these things. And really, I mean, think about our educational system, how that's kind of similar. All these things were expected for you to do. So again, Renaissance man, you're going to be someone who is talented at many different things. You're going to ride the unicycle and juggle machetes and chainsaws. Or you're going to take 2 AP classes, 2 pre-AP classes, start a sport, and be in 4 clubs at high school. Both equally as dangerous. This illustration we'll probably look at in class. You've probably seen it before. It's called The Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci, and is a great representation what a Renaissance man is all about. We'll kind of talk through that point more in class, but I just wanted you to get a look at that. And our last look here is just at one particular humanist. We'll read part of his things in class. Hey, Piper, Come here. We're going to look in class a little more at Baldassare Castiglione. He wrote what's called the Book of the Courtier, which is kind of the ideal Renaissance figure, what he wanted that person to be, and he talks about how he specifies qualities necessary to be a true gentleman. We'll look at that in class and describe the ideal of the Renaissance man. He also talked about the Renaissance woman, which we'll look at specifically here in a couple of units or sections. Piper, come over here. Come here. Come here. Come here. I'm trying. I'm recording these during the summer, and Maisie right now is asleep, and Piper is coming in here with us. Piper, come here. Come here. Come over here. She's being shy. I can't promise I'm going to have guest stars in every episode. Not episode. This is a TV show. But certainly I try to make these as painless as possible with paintbrushes and dogs. So that's 1.2, Renaissance Humanism. You cannot understand the Renaissance without knowing what humanism is about. Next section, we'll take a look at Renaissance art. Probably what you know the Renaissance for is the advances and achievements in art. So that is all we got for today. 1.2, shut her down.